what haven't I spoofed? And I said, oh, I know. I know. Space. I am the keeper of a power known throughout the universe.
The Force?
No, the Schwartz.
Mel Brooks risked everything for a parody that almost bankrupted the guy. This is a story of how Spaceballs turned insanity into comedy gold.
I sent the script to Lucas. I said, if there's anything that offends you, he called and he said, please, I saw Blazing Saddles, I've seen Young Frankenstein.
Before a single frame of Spaceballs was shot, Mel Brooks did something few comedians would. He dared to call George Lucas himself. See, Brooks wanted to parody Star Wars, but he knew Lucas had every legal reason to shut him down. Now, to his surprise, Lucas loved the idea. He even gave him his blessing with one rule: no merchandise. That meant no toys, no lunchboxes, no toilet paper, no Spaceballs t-shirts, and definitely no flamethrowers. Which is why, naturally, it was included in the movie. It's Brooks laughing at the deal that he made. Ironically, fans later begged for real Spaceballs merch, and Lucas reportedly told Brooks that he's made a very funny movie. Two worlds collided, and somehow everybody walked away smiling.
ILM, which is a George Lucas company, did all our post-production film work.
Brooks said he didn't want Spaceballs to just mock Star Wars, he wanted to honor it. The costumes, the sets, and even the sound design were built to feel real. That's why the movie still looks good decades later. Beneath all the stupidity, there's genuine craftsmanship. Lucas even lent some of his visual effects experts from Industrial Light and Magic to make sure that the film didn't look fake. It's one of those really strange Hollywood stories, the master of space epics quietly helping his own parody become a cult legend. See, at the time, Mel Brooks was gambling everything he owned on the movie. The budget ballooned midway through production, and when the studio refused to give more money, Brooks covered the difference himself. The most expensive disaster? Pizza the Hut. The melting, bubbling crime boss cost thousands to create. The suit was filled with real melted cheese and heavy rubber tubing that pumped fake goo through it. The heat on suit was so brutal that the man inside, actor Dom DeLuise's stand-in, nearly passed out. It smelled awful, it burned worse, and the entire costume had to be rebuilt twice because the cheese rotted under the lights. Brooks later joked that Pizza the Hut cost more than actual pizza restaurants. Now, what's wild is how far Brooks went to keep the gag real. He could have done it with miniatures or stop motion, but he wanted something grotesque and physical. He said it had to look like something that would stick to your nightmares. The guy wasn't wrong. Even now, Pizza the Hut looks disgusting, but also is 100% unforgettable. It's a perfect example and symbol of Brooks' comedy, expensive, weird, but also completely worth it at the end of the day.
I can't breathe in this thing!
Dark Helmet is one of the funniest villains ever put on film, but playing him was physically brutal. The oversized helmet Rick Moranis wore weighed over 40 pounds. It had no ventilation, and every time he moved his head, the weight strained his neck. After the first week of filming, Moranis had to wear a medical brace between takes. The famous line, "I can't breathe in this thing," that wasn't a joke, it was the truth.
Careful, you idiot! I said across her nose, not up it!
Sorry, sir. I'm doing my best.
Who made that man a gunner?
I did, sir. He's my cousin.
The size of the helmet also created hilarious problems on set. Moranis would accidentally bump into lights, walls, and even other actors because his field of vision was so limited. In one scene, the helmet got stuck in the doorway, and Brooks kept the take because it was way too funny to redo. What was supposed to be a small gag turned into one of the character's defining moments. Now, despite the discomfort, Moranis loved the role. He said it was one of the most fun experiences of his career because Brooks let him improvise freely. A lot of Dark Helmet's whining, sarcasm, and childish behavior came straight from Moranis' imagination. So it's really no surprise the character became legendary. He's just Darth Vader with a midlife crisis. John Candy's character, Barf, the half-man, half-dog Mog, his own best friend, quickly became a fan favorite. But Candy's costume was torture. It weighed over 70 pounds and was covered in thick fur that trapped heat inside. Candy actually wore a small air conditioning tube connected to a fan just to keep from fainting. The mechanical tail was remote controlled and often malfunctioned, whipping him across the back or wrapping around his legs during scenes. The role actually took a physical toll on him. In one incident, the tail mechanism snapped so hard it bruised his ribs. But Candy kept going, never complaining. Between takes, crew members brought him buckets of ice water to pour over his head. Despite everything, he adored the part. "I'm my own best friend," he said proudly during interviews, still laughing about the pain it took to deliver that one perfect line. The radar jam scene is one of those moments that feels way too silly and goofy to be real, but it actually was. When the radar screen fills up with jam, that wasn't CGI or animation. It was 50 gallons of real raspberry preserves. The crew blasted it onto the set with a pressurized cannon, creating a sticky explosion that covered everything. The smell lingered for weeks. The jam even ruined one of the cameras, and cleaning it up cost more than the scene itself. But Mel Brooks loved it. He reportedly yelled, "Now that's comedy you can taste." The crew didn't exactly share the sentiment. Several lights short-circuited due to the sugar and moisture, and the soundstage had to be shut down for 2 days. Still, it was worth it. The scene became one of the most memorable moments in the film. Sweet, stupid, and spectacularly messy. Dot Matrix, the golden robot companion, voiced by Joan Rivers. But Rivers never wore the costume. The person inside was a mime artist named Lorraine Yarnell, who had to endure hours inside a heavy metallic suit while mimicking Rivers' comedic timing. Rivers recorded her lines separately months later without ever meeting Yarnell. The two women didn't even meet until the premiere, where they laughed about how they'd played one character without ever being in the same room. The suit was incredibly restrictive. Yarnell could barely move her arms, and every step was choreographed to make Dot look robotic but graceful. Brooks said he gave the robot the dignity of C-3PO but the mouth of a Brooklyn cab driver. Now that combination worked perfectly. Rivers' sharp wit and Yarnell's physical comedy created one of the funniest side characters in science fiction history. Okay, this one is interesting, because the scene where Dark Helmet and Colonel Sanders watched Spaceballs the movie inside Spaceballs the movie was almost cut. Yeah, studio executives, they thought that audiences wouldn't understand the joke. Naturally, Brooks refused to listen. He believed it was one of the most brilliant things that he'd ever written. He wanted to show characters reacting to a movie that they were still making. It was self-aware before meta was ever a buzzword. When it played for test audiences, the theater went silent for 10 seconds, then erupted in laughter. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Brooks proved that comedy could bend time and logic if it had the right rhythm. He said it was the moment I realized I'd made a film about film itself. When Spaceballs hit theaters in 1987, critics were lukewarm. Some called it too silly. Others said it was too smart for its own good. But over time, the fans took over. VHS and cable television turned it into legend. People began memorizing every line, quoting it in college dorms and dressing as the characters at conventions. May the Schwartz Be With You became as famous as May the Force Be With You. What started as a parody became part of pop culture itself, and it's now one of the most quoted comedies ever made. Even George Lucas fans love it. The movie found immortality the same way every great comedy does, through laughter passed down from one generation to the next. Comedy fades, but Spaceballs still rules the galaxy of laughter.